Tensions rise in the Middle East as Israel and Iran exchange strikes following a Beirut attack. Meanwhile, Ukraine escalates its military campaign against Russia. These stories and more make today's headlines. Here are today's top 10 stories you need to know. Health officials are raising alarms over the emergence of new COVID-19 variants on June 12, 2026. These variants have shown increased transmissibility and potential resistance to vaccines, prompting renewed calls for booster shots and public health measures. Countries are monitoring the situation closely as they prepare for possible surges in cases. The World Health Organization is advising nations to remain vigilant and adapt their strategies to tackle these variants effectively. Public health campaigns are being ramped up to encourage vaccinations and preventive measures. The implications for global health systems are profound as countries work to balance reopening economies while ensuring public safety. As scientists continue to study these variants, the focus will be on developing effective treatments and vaccinations to combat the evolving virus. India is grappling with severe water shortages as extreme heat waves sweep across the country on June 12, 2026. Many regions are experiencing unprecedented temperatures, leading to increased demand for water while supplies dwindle. The government has declared emergency measures in several states to manage the crisis, including rationing water and providing aid to affected populations. Farmers are particularly hard hit, facing challenges in irrigation and crop yield. The situation has sparked protests as citizens demand government action to address the water crisis. The long-term impacts of these conditions could exacerbate existing social and economic inequalities, particularly in rural areas. As the government seeks solutions, discussions around sustainable water management and climate adaptation strategies are gaining urgency. The situation remains critical as communities await relief and long-term plans to combat the effects of climate change. World leaders gathered for a climate summit on June 12, 2026, to address the urgent issue of global warming and its impacts. The summit, held in Paris, focuses on strategies to reduce carbon emissions and promote sustainable practices. Many countries are facing increasing pressure to meet their commitments under the Paris Agreement. Discussions include transitioning to renewable energy sources and enhancing climate resilience in vulnerable regions. The summit has seen commitments from various nations to invest in green technologies and support for developing countries. However, environmental activists express concern that the pace of action is insufficient to curb the impending climate crisis. The outcomes of this summit will be closely monitored as the world aims to build a united front against climate change. As leaders return to their respective countries, the challenge remains to translate commitments into tangible actions that can make a difference. China continues to expand its military presence in the South China Sea, with recent reports indicating new installations and military exercises in the region. On June 12, 2026, satellite imagery revealed the construction of additional facilities on disputed islands, raising tensions with neighboring countries. This expansion is seen as a direct challenge to international maritime laws and has prompted strong reactions from the United States and its allies. The geopolitical implications are significant, as the South China Sea is a critical trade route and rich in resources. The situation has led to increased naval patrols by other nations in the area, as they seek to assert their rights and maintain freedom of navigation. Diplomatic efforts to address these tensions are ongoing, with calls for dialogue and peacekeeping measures. As China continues to assert its claims, the potential for conflict remains a pressing concern for regional stability. The United Nations has issued a stark warning regarding the worsening humanitarian crisis in Yemen on June 12, 2026. With millions facing food insecurity, the situation has become dire as conflict continues to ravage the country. Aid organizations report that over 24 million people require assistance, with malnutrition rates skyrocketing among children. The ongoing war has severely limited access to essential services, making it difficult for humanitarian efforts to reach those in need. The international community is urged to increase support and funding to alleviate the suffering caused by this prolonged conflict. The UN's call for action highlights the urgent need for a political solution to end the violence and address the root causes of the crisis. As conditions deteriorate, the implications for regional stability and security become increasingly concerning. The focus now turns to how the global community will respond to this heartbreaking situation. Economic concerns are escalating worldwide as inflation rates continue to rise, prompting central banks to consider policy changes. On June 12, 2026, reports indicate that many countries are grappling with soaring consumer prices, affecting everything from food to energy. The situation has led to calls for urgent intervention by government officials and economic leaders. Analysts warn that if inflation is not controlled, it could lead to a recession, impacting job growth and consumer spending. The global supply chain continues to face disruptions, exacerbating the inflationary pressures. Citizens are feeling the pinch, with many struggling to afford basic necessities as wages fail to keep pace with rising costs. Central banks are under pressure to adjust interest rates, with many contemplating hikes to stabilize their economies. The outcome of these decisions will significantly impact markets and individual consumers alike. As nations respond to these economic challenges, the focus will be on how effectively they can navigate this turbulent period. Severe weather conditions have struck Central Europe, causing widespread disruptions and damage across several countries on June 12, 2026. Heavy rainfall and strong winds have led to flash flooding, uprooted trees, and power outages. Countries including Germany, Austria, and parts of Poland have reported significant impacts, with emergency services responding to rising water levels and hazardous conditions. Meteorologists attribute this weather pattern to a combination of climate change and seasonal weather systems, raising concerns about future resilience to such extreme events. Local authorities are working tirelessly to ensure the safety of residents and provide necessary aid to affected areas. The economic impact is likely to be substantial, as businesses face disruptions and recovery efforts are expected to take time. As communities grapple with the aftermath, discussions around climate adaptation and infrastructure improvements are expected to gain traction. The situation remains fluid, with continued monitoring of weather forecasts and potential further storms on the horizon. A maritime drone exploded at a Romanian Black Sea port on June 12, 2026, highlighting the ongoing risks associated with the war in Ukraine. Fortunately, no injuries were reported in this incident, but it underscores the volatile security situation in the region. The Romanian Defense Ministry stated that the drone was not part of their military operations, indicating it likely originated from the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The explosion serves as a stark reminder of how the war has extended beyond Ukraine's borders, affecting neighboring countries and their security policies. Romania has vowed to maintain a high level of vigilance in the wake of this incident, emphasizing the need for robust defense measures. The explosion raises questions about the effectiveness of international efforts to stabilize the region and prevent further cross-border incidents. As security concerns mount, other nations along the Black Sea are expected to reassess their military readiness and cooperative defense strategies. The implications of this event may also influence NATO's response to security threats in Eastern Europe. In a bold military move, Ukraine launched long-range strikes targeting military and energy sites deep within Russian territory on June 12, 2026. This operation aims to disrupt Russia's military capabilities amid an ongoing conflict that has persisted since 2014. The Ukrainian government confirmed that the strikes were specifically designed to degrade critical infrastructure supporting Russian military efforts, including supply lines and command centers. This escalation follows months of intense fighting along the front lines in eastern Ukraine, where Ukrainian forces have been successfully reclaiming territory. The international response to these strikes is mixed. While several nations express solidarity with Ukraine's right to defend itself, others caution against the potential for further violence and regional destabilization. The situation remains particularly tense, as both nations have mobilized substantial numbers of troops, increasing the risk of retaliation from Russia. Analysts suggest that this operation could be a pivotal moment in the conflict, as Ukraine seeks to assert its sovereignty and regain control over occupied regions. Looking ahead, the focus will be on how Russia responds to this incursion, as further military actions could either escalate the conflict or prompt negotiations for a resolution. The coming weeks will be crucial in shaping the conflict's trajectory. In a significant escalation of hostilities, Israel and Iran exchanged missile strikes in the early hours of June 12, 2026, following an attack on a Hezbollah position in Beirut. This exchange marks one of the most intense confrontations between the two countries in recent years. The conflict began after Israeli forces targeted what they described as a terrorist infrastructure in Lebanon, aiming to diminish Hezbollah's operational capabilities. In retaliation, Iran launched missiles that struck northern Israel, causing damage to military installations and raising alarms about the potential for further escalation. The backdrop of this conflict is a long-standing rivalry fueled by Iran's unwavering support for militant groups in the region and Israel's ongoing efforts to neutralize perceived threats to its national security. The international community is deeply concerned about the potential for a broader war, as both nations possess significant military capabilities and regional alliances. Analysts warn that continued hostilities could lead to destabilization across the Middle East, drawing in other nations such as the United States and Russia, further complicating the geopolitical landscape. As this situation develops, diplomatic efforts are expected to ramp up in a bid to de-escalate tensions. With both sides demonstrating a commitment to their military objectives, the prospect of renewed negotiations remains uncertain. Thank you for watching. Which story shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.